Cloud and Clear, the podcast by SADA for innovative business leaders and technology enthusiasts, where we explore how Google Cloud is transforming the industry and what that means to you. Now here's your host, Tony Safoian.
All right, super excited today. I have a very special guest, the Vice President at Google Cloud running US and Canada. Please welcome to Cloud and Clear, Jenna Kennedy.
I'm glad to be here. Thank you for having me on your podcast.
Thanks for coming back. You were at our kickoff in January.
I was. It was fun. It was I'm 6 months in at that time. I just finished my Google anniversary, 1 year here. So 6 months in, it was fun to meet your leadership team and all your sales and service organization. So thank you for having me there.
It was so amazing for them to hear from you. And we got that special venue, as you recall.
Yeah.
The Academy building.
I mean, going to LA in the middle of winter is always a treat. So that was fun. We had a fun dinner too, by the way, the night before. So thank you.
That was awesome. Yeah, that was amazing. So welcome back in a lot of ways, because I think this is a continuation of the conversation from back then. And, 6 months have passed since then, which is a long period of time. And boy, have things changed a lot. A lot has gone on in the world in the last 6 months as well.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, my life has changed for many reasons, just switching companies, switching jobs. But who would have thought with the momentum we had in H1 that we would turn the corner in H2 and find a pandemic, and what all of us have had to do or got to do, frankly, to serve our customers and our employees, which was the first impact of that time. And then obviously we're now 4 months into it. We're seeing something very different, which is transformation is moving faster than we ever thought would happen. And so, yes, exciting is the wrong word to use about a pandemic, but it's definitely, a once in a lifetime experience that we're all going through together.
Yeah, no, we feel like we've been called upon to serve, not exactly like a big war or anything at all. You can't really make those direct connections, but as far as, our generation, the last 20 years, there hasn't been, I think, anything at SADA that we've seen that has both been so challenging, but also in very interesting ways brought people together. And then because of our partnership with Google Cloud and what we bring to market together, put us jointly in a position to help.
Yeah, it's interesting. I've been in business 30 plus years, all in tech. And the other time that reminded me of this was 9/11, when we all kind of rallied together as a country when that happened, and everyone can tell you where they were when the planes hit the towers. I was actually at a customer, Belk. I was working for IBM at the time, and I was at Belk's headquarters, their data center, when it happened. I remember watching that. And of course, the first thing we all did is leave and go get our kids, no matter where you were. You wanted to children, right? The difference on this one, though, is there are some similars in terms of what happened to the travel industry. Certain industries were hit a lot harder. But I think the difference here, this is not only an American thing, it's a global. And it's cross-industry, too. Some of the companies that are getting hit maybe are different than what we thought in the beginning. It's very clear that travel and transportation has been hit very hard. But who would have thought at the same time oil and gas is at all-time low. And so that industry is, reassessing. And then there's some other industries who are doing digital transformation in real time. I mean, the work that we're doing with almost all of supply chain, the online retailers, the retailers that had to go digital overnight. So there's been a lot of heroics. There's also been some amazing things. I know SADA, you guys were in leadership with healthcare and the dashboards that you brought up. You may want to share with our listeners, because I'm sure they've all heard about the work that you did during that time.
Yeah, the National Response Portal. It was amazing to see Sundar actually bring it up in the earnings call, the National Response Portal, which, we thought would have a shorter life in terms of relevancy. But guess what? Now with these spikes happening and things shutting back down, it's actually becoming more and more relevant over time, because we want it to be the destination where people can go and find very specific information, not only about cases, but what's happening like down to their county level in their hospitals, near where they live. And I think that's still very, very relevant. But I think that leads us to the broader point, which is, especially in the last 2-3 weeks, Janet, I don't know about you, but I'm realizing that we can't even put a date. It's like we try to put a date in our head at our company, like, hey, on this day we can start going back, and we're guessing September. Like, nobody knows, and we as a ecosystem might as well just assume that this is the new normal, and like we have to execute now. Whatever plans our customers have in terms of digital transformation or massive cost savings initiatives, like we can help in all sorts of areas.
Yeah.
And we want to encourage them to all think in those terms. Like, this is not a 2-3 month thing. 18 months at a minimum is what I'm thinking. I don't know.
Yeah, no, for sure. And again, I think we talked quite a bit. And I think during the cycle, literally the beginning was clearly about, getting our employees home. I remember for myself personally, I had flown, because I normally work out of the Chicago office, but in this role, I fly 3 or 4 nights a week.
Mm-hmm.
And I had flown to our condo in Naples, Florida for what was going to just be a golf weekend. And I never left. So I was there for almost 4 months, because the day after I flew, all the companies shut down their offices and there was nothing for me to come back to in Chicago. Right. And so that was a shock. I didn't have any clothes. I was literally packed for a 3-day weekend. And then I stayed there for 4 months. But in the beginning, it was all about, how do we get people work from home? Now, the good thing is it's what we kind of do for a living. But my personal challenges, and you know the story, we're growing so quickly under our CEO, Thomas Curian. When he's been here, I think about 20 months, he hired Rob Insland and Kirsten, who Clubhouse about 13 months ago. I'm 12 months in. And from there, literally, we've hired almost 2,000 people, sales, service, and support in North America alone.
Wow.
1,000 of them were hired since we went into shutdown. So think about your life. You're a Noogler, which is what we lovely call our Googlers that are our new hires. You've never been in an office. You're interviewed over Google Meets. Luckily, we have this great communication so we can see each other and talk to each other. You have to get your first equipment at your home. You do all your training on board, and you try to create a community and meet your customers all while you're at home. I mean, it's a challenge, a sales challenge I've never been through in my life. The interesting thing is also you have to rethink everything. Like, what does community mean? What does I don't know about you. I'd love to hear your thoughts. In the beginning, I went to a ton of happy hours, virtual happy hours, and things. Mm-hmm. 4 months in, not quite as interested. Because we all spend all day long on video now. I mean, I'm not quite that. Yeah. But we had to think community, safety, health, onboarding. And so that was all of our focus. And you guys were so helpful with us and a lot of our clients that we were working together. But I think the second point, it's very clear. This thing is not over. I've heard people say that we've just seen 3 years of digital transformation in 4 months.
True.
A lot of people did things because they had to. I mean, some of our largest customers are online retail or the CPG customers, and they had to turn on mobile checkout, using dialogue for mobile chat. Is the store open? Does it have toilet paper? All those things that we just turned on like in weeks that maybe they would have had it as a project before. But now that this is real and it's happening and we don't see anything really changing for many, many months, I think people are saying we've just proven that the whole world can work in a cloud-based world. I've heard some crazy numbers about the percent of people that are running on Google Fiber globally. It's just crazy. 300 million people are using Google Classroom for online education. You and I are doing business like this, and it's staying up. It's working. And so if that's the case, why don't we just move everything else? And that's what we're getting into now in your business. I mean, I think you've gone from being our most largest and successful G Suite partner to now driving some of the biggest GCP deals. Like, who would have thought that you would be doing that? Who would have thought?
Yeah, no, it's an amazing time to be doing what we're doing in a lot of ways. And I was talking to some other, customers of ours who they're also our partners. We use their platforms. They run on GCP. And, their theory is like cloud's actually saved the world, like saved the economy of what, the remaining part of the economy. Of course, some of it, which still depends on, in-person, physical sort of interaction and transaction and service and commerce. Of course, that's been very, very significantly hit. But what remains, this is only possible because of cloud. Whether you think about systems and uptime and pressure on call centers, other service, interaction points, or collaboration, meetings, working together, communication. Imagine like if this happened 10 years ago.
No, I can't imagine. I mean, I remember you and I both remember the old dial-up, that noise we used to hear to dial in to get your email down, and you dial in and go get a cup of coffee and come back. I mean, I think that's a shining light, I guess, out of this whole situation, is that it did happen in a time that the world, could respond. Because boy, I can't imagine what we would be doing in that situation. Just one other thing, because I know you want to talk about transformation and all, but just one other thing, I just want to say that I'm jointly just really proud of Google and our partner ecosystem, is the response wasn't just about helping people get back to work or helping people, be safe, telemedicine, the kind of dashboards that you did for us. But I also feel like, through giving the access of the Google content landing pages, such as Google Search and YouTube, and to make sure we gave it over to the official leaders, scientific leaders, so that people can get accurate data and try to stop the fraud. I think that was meaningful. And then there's been just some really moving things, such as I don't know if you saw on YouTube, Andrew Bocelli, and he did the he sang on Easter Day
in the Duomo, yes,
at the Duomo, all by himself.
Yeah.
I was at the Duomo 2 years ago for vacation, and there was me and 1,000 people. Yeah. And to see him standing there all by himself singing on Easter, I think there's been some really moments of inspiration.
I'm getting chills thinking about it, because I remember that. I was watching it with the kids, and it was like, what a moment.
Yeah.
Streamed on YouTube, of course.
Yeah, it was done in conjunction with YouTube. So that's why Susan is amazing, and she's done some really important things to bring community together. When a lot of people are scared and lost and do want to have community, whether they're sitting at home by themselves in some cases.
I think the partnership with Google is so rewarding for all sorts of reasons, but part of it is like just that social outward awareness and the realization, and not every company is like this, I'm not going to name them, but you have this platform of reach, of information, dissemination, of communication, or meet. Hey, let's make it free for 2 billion people. Classroom, let's get, 1 million students lit up in New York overnight. Like the calling, when Google feels the calling, it steps up, like the $800 million towards small businesses, right?
Yeah.
And it's right in front of us in the partner community, and we're like, wow, that's the example we're following. And it forces everyone to step up, right? And it's so great to see that, because not every company has that cultural core, that, by the way, this is the biggest time and test of company culture and leadership also that we've ever seen. So how companies respond, how leaders respond, whether it's you responsible for 2,000 folks or me for 250, like this, our people are going to remember us as leaders, how we've shown up, the decision we made, how we've communicated, transparency, action, those kind of things, helping versus the alternatives. And I think that our customers and the market will remember this moment for companies and leaders for 10 years.
Yeah, I think this is a time that leadership matters more than anything. And you can see every day in the news, you can see good examples of leadership and not so good examples. From our company's perspective, I just felt very blessed that I think having Sundar as the leadership of Alphabet and Thomas Kurian, man, what a difference our cloud. We always had the technical chops, particularly. Cloud native companies have fought Google for years. You can name them up and down the West Coast who started with Google Cloud. But what we were not known for was enterprise level support. For sure, everyone talks about Google. They always say the 9 products that have over 1 billion users, all the data and insight we get. Always say that. They always talk about data and big data, particularly with that more and more enhancements and announcements in BigQuery, AI, ML, or DeepMind organization, Alphabet. Everyone talks about it, but they weren't quite sure if we were enterprise. And Tom is almost finishing his second year, and right time, right leader. I think Sundar is the right time, right leader right now in the voice of Alphabet globally. And boy, is Thomas shaking up the cloud in terms of what Google Cloud is doing, globally. And you can see it. That's why I know we were going to talk a little bit about Next OnAir is now in week 2, but you can just see it in the names and the brands of the customers that are standing on stage next to him talking about what we're doing together.
Absolutely. But let's talk about that transition, because we've been partners with Google for 14 years. We've seen all sorts of, leadership at the field level, at the, president level, at the channel organization level, and programs and all sorts of strategies, right? Over 14 years, it's evolved a lot.
You have stories to tell.
We have stories, but we've also been long enough to appreciate the massive difference in the last 2 years. And so Thomas Kurian comes on board. By the way, we were down the path of selling our Microsoft business unit. Even, in the Diane Green era, we were so impressed with the changes that even that sort of 4 or 5 year period had for the market. But then, so we're almost done with this transition. 3-4 months left to close the deal. Thomas Kurian's announced. Robinson comes in. Kirsten comes in. You come in. Let's talk about that, because when I met Thomas 2 Januaries ago, and I actually leaked to him that we were selling the Microsoft business unit. It was very risky because the deal's not done. How am I going to talk about it? Anything can happen, but I was so confident that we're going to get a deal done. So I actually kind of signaled to him, and he was I think shocked to some extent. But he remembered that because he emailed me later about it. But and he was like, look, the enterprise software go-to-market playbook is not new. And he comes from Oracle, probably where the book was written, right? Yeah. And he's like, we know what to do. We're going to do these things and bring these leaders and hire a bunch of people and, smother our customers with love and attention and execution ability and legal and commercial and support and all the things he's done, right? John Jester came in. And,
yeah. Sure.
And so, but it wasn't probably conceivable for you 3 years ago if Google came and said, hey, Janet, we want you to come to cloud. You would have probably been like, no. So what was that tipping point for you to be like, yes, I've done this at IBM. I've done this at Microsoft. Great times there. Ran Canada. Now I want to take this on.
Yeah, you're exactly right. I've had an amazing career. I get to work for 3 of the most iconic tech companies. I was a mock hire, a new college hire at IBM when I was 21 years old.
Wow.
I switched right to Microsoft right when the client server piece happened. There literally was no enterprise. People used to say, when I came in 2002, Windows NT was Windows not there. And that's about what there was when I joined there. And I got to have an amazing ride in terms of building an incredible.
It was IBM who coined Windows not there.
Yeah, well, because remember, they had OS 2. And, I'm giving a history lesson for people that are not my age. But if you remember the history lesson, IBM and Microsoft jointly created OS 2. And it was something a lot of when I was at IBM. But all of a sudden, Windows 95 and Mick Jagger, if you remember, Start Me Up.
Oh,
it was
of course.
an exciting moment in the history of technology. And all of a sudden, people were talking about this Windows thing, and you see what's happening. You want to be part of it, right? So I switched right then and had an amazing ride, basically growing what was a consumer company into a massive enterprise company. And that the best thing I ever did there was I got to be president of Microsoft Canada for 4 years. So full end-to-end, fully owned subsidiary, end-to-end P&L. SMB, consumer, Xbox, Surface, enterprise, public sector. Wow. It was just fun
the
job.
Whole thing.
Yeah, fun job. But after 4 years, I finished that job, and it was a contract. I stayed there 4 years and 1 day. And then when I came back, I knew that I was wanting to do something different. I wasn't really ready to just be a headquarters person. Yeah. And so, I basically, for Google, I wasn't thinking about Google. I was a reference for Kirsten Klipphaus, who's our president for North America. And halfway through being her reference, they're like, what about you? And I'm like, I just literally never thought about it. but when we got to meet Thomas, so my interview was Thomas Kurian. It was Kevin Ishpirani, who runs our partner system. I know John Jester, obviously, from Microsoft. Kirsten and I worked together years ago, by the way. We worked together for almost 7 years running the U.S. subsidiary of the enterprise part of Microsoft. But we went to different ways. I went to Canada. She went to Red Hat. She did some startups and all. And we all just kind of came back together at what I think is a magical time. And what I like to do is I'd like to be in the edge of the next trend. So I got to see, the mainframe to PC to client server to cloud, which was really driven by the iPhone, right? And app. And then now this is digital. We are full blown going into digital. And if you want to be in the leading trend, and who knows digital better than the company that was built digital.
Yeah. I think what people are starting to realize, and we said this for a long time because we actually understood Google's enterprise strategy, is like, look, we built this stuff for ourselves. Borg and all this other stuff, like containers, big data. Like, are you kidding me? You can't build Chrome or the Play Store or Search or YouTube without these things. So now, like, let's say for the last 5 years, we're just gonna, create some SKUs, make it enterprise class, price it out, and deliver it so everyone else can build, like someone else can build a YouTube at that scale or whatever. Yeah. And they're in a very unique position to do that. Yeah, Amazon had this retail infrastructure stuff, of course. Microsoft didn't have cloud stuff really, so they had to invent it, right? Create it from scratch almost. But Google's been doing this for 20 years. They've had to have this technology. That's why they're the ones writing the open standard papers on Kubernetes and TensorFlow and things like that, right? It's very natural for them to extend. And of course, the network, you can't serve Google.com to billions of people without the network globally, right? The fiber and everything else. So very unique position.
Yeah, and when you think about it, I can't tell you a person I admire as much as what Satya Nadella did for Microsoft, taking what was a on company and turning it entirely to cloud. And if you think about it, a great platform company, and just basically having to re-engineer every piece of the company. It's been very, it was an honor to work for that organization.
I'm also a big admirer of his. We had that Microsoft business. I met him a couple times because we did well there too at the time, right? We were pretty well known in that ecosystem. I met him a couple times. I can't say enough good things. I totally agree with that. Yes.
Yeah, I think that the funny thing is several times in my career, I had in my title digital transformation leader. And so when I showed up at Google, I thought I was. And what the fun part for me at Google is I'm getting an MBA or a PhD or whatever the highest level of digital leadership here. And so there's nothing more fun than to walk in. And we typically do. We walk in. We love our CIOs and our IT pros. We work with them all day long. But, often the interesting conversations are with the CMO, the CDO, the CIO, innovation officer, not the CIO, or the CEO. And we're talking about, what is digital transformation going to change your business? And in this world, next month. Right?
Yes.
And things like I said, helping customers, some of our very largest customers, they are running overnight mobile businesses. We're helping with inventory. Our AI models are helping with demand, upsell, cross-sell, recommendation, and all of that signals that we see in the 9 products that we have within Google and Alphabet. And so, like I said, it's been so interesting. I spent a lot of time. I've actually spent a lot of time studying and learning what the digital side of Google can do to add into the insights our cloud customers really want to learn about.
Yeah, look, you could argue that a lot of these customers should have done this sooner, could have done it sooner. The technology has been there. The tailwinds that this is creating is tremendous. But the reality is some of them have not been their chances now, and they have to do it. It actually, this current environment poses an existential threat for so much of our economy and our traditional industrial companies, right? And look, for the last 5-10 years, there's been the traditional enterprise. Then there's been the other group that we jointly serve, which is the digital natives and the startups. For every one of them, there's 100 startups trying to disrupt what they do. And many of them have done it successfully. And so now finally the realization is like, oh my God, we're this 100-year-old company. We have massive revenues, tons of employees, infrastructure, distribution. Like, what if we just deployed some of those ideas into this other elements of a competitive, advantage that we have? What could that mean for a Target, a Dish? I mean, you name it. There's just so many traditional enterprises that could benefit, and I think they're now being pushed to where they might have met resistance in the past, whether it was board resistance or other leaders that have been there for 20 years and didn't want to disrupt and move the cheese or whatever.
For sure.
Now the resistance is gone, and we're seeing an immense acceleration. And whether it's, again, huge cost savings or complete digital transformation of how customers interact with them, both pathways lead through cloud. And I think that's why we're seeing the uptick in demand that we've seen in Q2 and going into Q3.
Yeah, obviously it's public, our earnings. We're in a quiet period now, as you know. But last half of last year, our fiscal, we had an incredible Q4. And so going into this year, I was very bullish. And of course, we're hiring and training and bringing a lot of professionals, frankly, from the industry. And so when COVID hit, again, like I said, in the beginning, it was all about people and our employees, our customers. I was very worried because I could see the momentum that we were having and that we were doing true digital transformation, meaning we were helping people, bringing together all the parts of Google to change their businesses. Mm-hmm. But I actually was very worried, I think probably March, early April, because I felt like it would be so easy when you were going to be stuck at home and you couldn't go on site and like whiteboard engineering. Sort of putting up a proof of concept really quickly for some new idea. I thought that it was going to set us back. I was very concerned.
Me too.
Very concerned. But it's interesting because now, to your point, everyone has realized this thing is real. We've proven we've proven that everyone's in the cloud every day, every hour. And now what we're seeing is massive deals, competitive. Like they're all looking at all three of the big players, right? Mm-hmm. That are just flat out, I'm done with this. I'm going to take out my data centers and put it all in the cloud. And by the way, I don't want to lift and shift. I want to modernize and shut down, right?
Yeah.
And so what's been fascinating for me is that, it's crazy. I don't know about you. I feel like I've never worked more in my life sitting in front of my Chromebook. I'm on a Chromebook right now, my GVC, my big units in Florida.
Janet, can you believe we used to do all of this and still travel every week?
Well, you know what?
How do we do that?
This is the bad side of it. And I mean this in the right way. I actually think we're all getting a lot more done, but it's not as much fun.
Yeah.
I'd far rather come and see you, have a drink, get to know you.
I know. Go to a nice dinner, really connect.
At least we got a chance to do that before this happened, but it's not as much fun. But I mean, we have the productivity, the amount of calls that like our CEO again is amazing. Rob Enslin, he's the president for Worldwide, and he was one of the top people at SAP, knows everyone. Any of them are willing to get on a call anytime to talk about how we can help our customers, and it's made such a difference. I mean, it's made a huge difference. But now the challenge is execution because there is so much happening. It's how do you get the right teams at the right places to?
Yeah, I mean, we're hiring. We had a pause in hiring, like most companies did. It didn't last that long because we still brought on a bunch of data engineers because we needed them for projects. But now it's like wide open. I have, we have 245 people, but 16 new people are coming on board in the next 20 days.
That's my favorite conversation with you. You know that.
Yeah. And 70% of them are engineers. Yes. 70% of them are engineers. And I have 16 people just in Canada alone already. And that's going to ramp crazy. And so, we have to bring on probably another 50 people in the next, quarter or two at least. And it's just what the market demands. And the good thing is, SADA is a great place to work in all sorts of ways, but we have some exceptional engineering talent, like our CTO, Miles Ward, who just other engineers want to work in that orbit, which is fantastic. But also people want to work here because of the Google ecosystem.
Yeah.
Right? Like those certifications are some of the highest paying and they're wonderful. And there's so much meaningful work that people get to do. So that SADA is a great place to come and, get into the ecosystem.
And they have a great leader too. So don't understand yourself. I mean, I think that just like we said before, leadership matters right now more than ever. And I think we're very fortunate to have you. Even though they probably all get jealous of your home office that we, if I told you podcasters, most of us are sitting in our kitchen, which is exactly where I am. And you're in your home theater, kind of laid back, watching all of us.
It's the only room I still control in the house. Every other room is chaos. But I want to double click on a couple of things. You talked about the IBM to Microsoft transition, and I don't want to lose that point because, again, I'm a student of history in general, but also history and technology. And what Microsoft experienced with Novell and IBM, it's the classic story, the classic lesson in enterprise, which is the best technology does not always win. And in the last 5 years, I can distinctly say that that's what the struggle has been, which is like Google has had the best technology for a long time. But in enterprise, it's not the consumer world where that just automatically means you win. In enterprise, you need all the other elements that you talked about, all the other leaders, all the other coverage, all the other execution ability that helps a large organization choose one technology over the other. They have historically, over the last 40 years, many, many times, the best tech has lost.
Yeah. It's interesting that when I first came here, because a lot of people have said, what's the difference? Because I've worked for these iconic companies. And my first few weeks here, I was shocked at how technical people are. I mean, this is an engineering-led culture. It's cloud native for sure. Mm-hmm. A lot of the things that the world is using, we use for Google first. And, everyone always says, when have you ever done a Google search and seen it down? I don't think I've ever made that happen. And so could we bring that to the world? Because the rest of us are not used to a world like that. We've seen a lot of things going on. The network is pretty amazing. Again, things that I underestimated until I got here is the pure cloud native, and the fact that we built something like Kubernetes and then we get to open source. So the world's using Kubernetes, but Google wrote Kubernetes, right? Yeah. The world's using Istio. Google wrote Istio. The world's using our private dark fiber network, and if I was doing a presentation, I'd show you the pictures of the cables under the sea and the shark trying to bite the cables in there. It's amazing what is happening in terms of our network. And I've seen it when you have a technology engineers to engineers speaking, they get jazzed up about what they can actually do with this technology. Yeah. But it's a different conversation at the line of business. They don't really care about the geek speak as much. They just want to know that their cart, that they can get an item in their mobile cart, less than, so they want to time how fast it's going to be to put it in cart and then to check it out.
Well, we want to get to a point also from a perceived risk standpoint. What did IBM make famous, right? Like nobody gets fired for buying IBM. Mm-hmm. And, we didn't have the platform with which to say this about Google Cloud up until I think very recently. Now we can go with confidence, say, you will not get fired. Nobody gets fired for buying Google Cloud, just like IBM had 25 years ago. That's what we want to get to. And I think this level of enterprise engagement, execution, leadership, commercial ability, support, professional services, the whole thing comes together with a healthy partner ecosystem to reduce that perception of risk. And I think if we get that part right, we continue to get it right, more and more customers will choose the better technology. And I think that's the Google strategy with Anthos and other things, saying, look, Anthos is us being confident and pretty sure that, hey, we have the best cloud, but it's going to be a hybrid environment for a long time, or a multi-cloud environment for a long time. Move at your leisure. Yeah. It's a very confident posture.
I think we're very different in that way. And that's been refreshing to me because, again, I've been in this for so long. You can go in and say, who's your cloud provider? Very few people have one cloud provider. And so let's just be honest about it. That our customers want multi-cloud. And the work that we've done, Anthos has been as open as it can be, on-premise, in our cloud, run AWS, run Azure. We just announced with BigQuery, which I think the BigQuery product is amazing.
Amazing. The best in the world.
Streaming, the response time, and then all the AI ML models that we have. buy industry solutions that are available immediately. But now you can run it on Azure. We just announced that the preview for, AWS is in production, and preview for Azure is coming.
Yeah.
And I love that. I mean,
I love that.
Open source, and we're a leader in multi-cloud, and I think we're walking the talk. And nobody would get.
You're not going to do that. No, the other players are not going to do that. Both technologically, it's extremely challenging to do, but also strategically, it doesn't make sense for them. They're kind of in that lock in, we want everything, we're the market leader mindset. And Google's like, yeah, we're third right now. It doesn't really matter. The market's so massive. It doesn't matter if we're third. But we have this ambition to be the open source champion. That what's best for the customer will dictate our strategy. And I think that's absolutely going to work over the long term. And I think we're on week 2 of Next OnAir, a completely new format.
What do you think? You're watching it and being part of it in the partner ecosystem. What do you think so far?
We're watching it. We're doing our commentary, afterwards, and publishing the commentary on Thursdays for every Tuesday sort of opening day. I think the content's amazing. I can't believe the whole marketing organization did the pivot that they did. Mm-hmm. But what really resonated, again, just from the opening moment with Sundar and even with Ruth and TK and the leader circle version of the sort of keynote is just again, the heightened awareness of Google's position to be responsible and helpful at this time. Mm-hmm. Yes, by the way, that includes you buying some of our technology over time, of course. But hey, it's like a very different posture than any other type of event. And it's right on, the tone is right. And I love that about how Google's showing up.
That's good. Yeah, so I watched week 1. And then today we're doing Leader Circle Roundtable. So I'm doing an oil and gas one today. So that's awesome. Fun. Yeah, so I think they're doing a lot of the mix of the big keynotes and then the smaller. And we'll see. I mean, if we had a choice, would I rather be with people? Yes, absolutely. We had 40,000 or something last year. We had well more than that register. So it will be interesting to see, the feedback from the people that are registered for the events. I also love I do like the weekly keynote. Like yesterday, Javier did the big announcement around. Mm-hmm. I know you're very involved on that, and then
super excited about that.
Yeah,
I'm a big Javier fan from the Microsoft days, as you know.
Yeah. So did you watch his keynote yesterday? Did you?
Yeah.
So I'm excited about the new. I mean, and I think the world's getting it in the next couple of weeks. Is what the integration of meeting, Meet and Team and Voice. I've obviously had it for quite a while, and it's great. I mean, it's a different experience of how fast we're delivering new capabilities to the market.
Yeah, no, the product roadmap is on fire, and I think that again, the timing of this release is like, we need better tools. We also don't need more tools. Like, we're exhausted with the number of silos that we have to go to, and Slack for this and Zoom for that and some other things for this, like Box and Dropbox. Like, I can't handle it. Like, I'm busy enough. Like, put everything in one place for me, remove the noise, allow me time to focus. Like, the platform knows when I have a meeting, it's going to leave me alone, right? Like, and the cost. Janet, some of the customers over time, and we talked to some of these big enterprises, sometimes because of M&A, other times because of, just sprawl. Oh my God, they're 5x paying for what they actually need to spend. Like, you're paying as much for like one point solution that's part of G Suite as all of what G Suite costs. Like, that is crazy. And so we hope that we get to drive that point home, and with the G Suite Essential strategy and the departmental, or don't, stay on Microsoft, don't do all this data migration today. I think that's also really smart to get it in the hands of a lot more users faster.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. It's actually kind of makes me think back to my IBM, which was all enterprise, to early Microsoft days, because I went from massive enterprise mainframe, the big guys, to this consumer company who became, in the 16 years I was there, this massive enterprise customer, right? But in G Suite, it's interesting because we have 2 billion people that use it, active users every day, right? So this is is a product that everybody knows how to use.
Mm-hmm.
The challenge you always get, everyone's using it, particularly the millennials. They all are collaborated all through college on, and then they get here and they feel like they're locked in and secured in this new world of collaboration. And so one thing I like that Javier is doing is a lot of options of how to get started. Like you can just use the G Suite Essentials, just use Meet that we're using right now. And a lot of people are using for all hands calls. And, this is something that's become very important. And we gave it to the world for free through the COVID pandemic. But, they can use Meet, Drive, Slides, Sheets, etc., and just start using it to collaborate. And I think over time, people are going to see, well, why am I paying for Slack? And they're paying for 3 or 4 or 5 different things. We've got to help people understand the transition of that.
You shouldn't need to spend, $100 a month per user for a bunch of what I'm calling luxury SaaS. Mm-hmm. This is luxury SaaS. It's like, I really need some other layer on top of I already need my email platform. Then I need 3 other layers on top to work. It's ridiculous. The market's going to wake up to it. And the product, left some gaps in the years past. I think Javier is quickly filling those gaps. And I'm really excited. I'm really excited for H2. What's going to happen with G Suite. And I know that, I've taken you away from all your customer conversations. I don't want to keep you too long, but I do want to ask for some, parting words.
Sure. Oh, parting words. Well, that's a big question. There's so many things going on in our life. Parting words. But first of all, thank you. I mean, you guys are an amazing partner, and you know this. My team knows I often call you for a forecast before I call them because you guys are so close to the customer. So I want to thank SADA and the relationship that we have together and ask you to hire all those cities that I want you to hire in as quick as possible. Yes. I think parting words, if I was someone listening out there, I look back on my career and I've gotten to live through some of the most incredible technology transitions. And to be part of that, I've got to be through 3 of them. And I think we're going through another one now in a different way. I don't think we expected it to be through a pandemic. But if you should be part of it. I mean, this is not about selling technology or selling platforms or infrastructure. Yes. We're literally reimagining digital world for the most traditional companies in globally, right? And so it's fun. I mean, to me, this is intellectually interesting and an opportunity to really help customers transform their business. And in some cases, those that survive are going to thrive, and you want to be there with them when they do that.
Hey, after almost 20 years, which SADA will be 20 years old on August 16th, we've never been more excited and more duty bound and really fulfilled by the work that we're doing with Google and our customers. So I really appreciate your alliance, your friendship, your partnership. I think being connected at the executive level for your partner ecosystem also just such a trusting and fast way to execute, and deliver the best customer experience together. So I really appreciate the connection that we have. And hey, on to Q3, Q4. We got to do a lot of work for our customers, and we both have to do a lot of hiring. But I'm really looking forward to.
It's going to be fun, and we will. And this too.
Fun, yes.
We will get to see each other in person as soon as that thing gets out there. So I look forward to seeing you and having a drink together in the near future.
I am totally on board with that. Thanks so much for doing Cloud and Clear. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to Cloud and Clear. Check the show notes for links to this week's topics. And don't forget to connect with us on Twitter @CloudandClear and our website, sada.com. Be sure to rate and review the show on your favorite podcast app.